Good morning, everyone. Verrill here. Flo out of Portland. Got ourselves a little bit of a morning ramble planned. You know it. To all my caffeine sensitive people. um, had an interview yesterday, and we're looking, right, for team members and individuals, always shopping for talent is what I guess the best of the best do. So, in the spirit of duplicating success and what success looks like, we are always considering how can we expand our team, increase the talent pool on the bench. And this guy comes in looking slick, and I thought, okay, apparently the girls had set up a inspection position interview. I didn't know, and I walk in and go, "Holy, who's this guy?" And they hand me his resume. I'm like, "Okay, cool. Come on in, let's talk." And this is where I think a lot of homeowners specifically need to be able to discern between good and evil. And it's not to say that this guy was a bad guy. Actually, he was coming with vulnerability. He was approaching us with hopes and dreams. Overall, good vibes. Didn't get really any bad vibes from it at all. A little green, but he's telling me his story and about his experience and everything. And one response I liked to one of the questions I'd asked was, "Okay, if I take you over to the doghouse, can you name all the components for me too?" This is kind of like the foundation of how I would judge someone's experience is, can you even name the components of a system, and the different accessories and where they go and why. That is how I discern, okay, is someone unexperienced, or are they unprepared, or how green are they? In a situation where I'm considering putting you in front of property peoples that make decisions in the best interest of their decision making, I can't have individuals who don't know the basic terminology, let alone don't have the experience of actually knowing how an assembly comes together or what's in the best interest for their system, all the different flashing details and everything. So this is why we've in the past put production project managers out into the field and then transitioned them into inspectors, because they got to go see a boatload of roofs, and then they know, because it's come from the school of hard knocks of how these packages come to be, the good, the bad, and the ugly of a full replacement. We kind of dramatize the experience, saying, a hurricane's going to come through your yard and your trees are going to fall over and your windows are going to pop. And in reality, then, it's just like light scraping on the roof with some hammers, and they go, "Oh, it's not that bad." Right? So, but one of the biggest aspects of the interview that made me want to jump on this video and really kind of explain to homeowners what I think they should look out for is something they already know. And I think a lot of consumers do without even being shopping for roof and roofing work or roofing solutions. So, good guy. I could tell he was clean, and sober, which is my biggest one-off is okay, how is his eyes and this is only something that we've had to go through over the years, is roofing traditionally has been a low barrier to entry, and you get a lot of dudes that have, less so women, but you have a lot of dudes that are using and abusing substances of all different kinds, and they won't be upfront about it. And this is, I guess, a separate video, but my greatest weakness, I feel is being too trusting, and how many times I've been burned from trusting too much. It's one of my biggest issues, actually, with my connection with any of the residential inspections that I've done. And when I was doing it full time, I would always complain to my sister, and she hated it, be like, I care too much about these customers, and maybe, and if there was a measurable KPI in my interactions with these customers, it was about a 50% shot that we would end up working together, which is pretty good. But you always want to assume, and that's how I treat my clients, is that we're going to work together. It's not that I'm coming across arrogant during the inspection. It's that I'm speaking to you, understanding that this is going to be a relationship where you need to understand who you're speaking to. I want to know who I'm speaking to and what you're concerned with, what are your values, what are your priorities. And then there's commonalities between residential and the crossover between residential and commercial. There's not a lot of different detail, but in the way that like everyone's concerned about budget, right? That's the common denominator. But one of the other discerning factors that I focus on is really trying to, beyond just building a relationship, letting people know like these are your options, having the optionality. So in trying to, and I'm definitely going on a tangent here, I think, but the property owners and it still maybe be today, but I think, and this may be just like industry standard, because I think more than ever these days, and it's been, in my experience when I started too, it was the case that I think women are wearing the pants in life in a lot of cases. Probably 60 to 70% of our clientele on the decision maker side of residential are women. And they are discerning, inquisitive, curious, and intuitive in the way that they trust their emotions and the feeling they get of the inspectors who are sitting in front of them, or in some cases, salespeople, right? There's a distinct difference, and that's kind of the theme of this conversation, is discerning the difference of who you're speaking to about your roof specifically. And this could be anything for home services. Excuse me. Who is in front of you, and what is their why? Why are they even in front of you? It's obviously to help you with a problem on the basic level. But what I'm trying to get at is there's two flavors, at least in the roofing space, of individuals that are either trying to sell you on something or help you with something. And the difference can come from, a video that I was watching this morning as I was kind of driving in on my commute. I can't remember the kind of the retro voice. It wasn't Alan Watts. It was something, I can't remember his name, but he is talking about the difference between like the abundance mindset versus the scarcity and everything, and how the law of attraction, the way that like if you're not producing necessarily or following your intuition or your goals or listening to what it is you think is important or adding to your life or overall just good vibes, building into what you think is worth your time, right? And I think a lot of people can fall into a trap where fear of wasted time can actually create a pessimism around their filter in life, which gets a little bit too metaphysical for roofing. But I've had to, like, even with my own dad, I've had to say, dude, like, you're a product of the filter and the information that you're letting in. And he's an old dog with those habits, and I think that's unfortunate. And it's not a shit on baby boomers, but I think that generation comes with a lot of those problems of, in that time prior to cell phones, it was a different world, right? You trusted humanity for what you could see and hear without having the tainted information of, obviously there's propaganda, there's There's media that has its biases. It's going to be pushing an agenda, obviously. And this is something that's been, the curtain has been pulled back for a while. And I stopped watching TV when the pandemic hit. And it wasn't even TV that I was watching, but it was like, even Netflix documentaries, which is something that I cherished. Like David Attenborough was like, having the biology program, I was just like enamored by the fact, and this is part of the reason why I try to go travel and specifically try to get lost when I travel, is the magic of the undiscovered. But that being said, this individual standing in front of you as a homeowner, you have to ask, are they here to help me or are they here to sell me? And I think this is something, again, I mean, the reason why I brought up the women thing was like, because women are so much more intuitive, and it's not even just human nature. It's because I feel like they understand, and this is, maybe it's way too broad and I'll get in trouble for trying to generalize, but excuse me for trying to understand. I'm not a woman, but I do understand the value of being in tune with your emotions and listening to what those feelings are telling you, because we have what's called flight or fight responses, right? And there is true intuition around the feelings of trust, love, all these different aspects that make humanity worth living for. And in trying to connect with homeowners, the majority have been women, these decision makers that are overall like smarter and more decisive, and just, I mean, think about it, they're protecting their family's well-being. They understand the budgets probably more than most men. They understand and are more concerned with future outlook. When you think about female-male mate selection from the female standpoint, from what I've heard, it's how is this individual's future going to look like? I'm interested in what and now this is where hopefully it's authentic, and maybe we're getting into a little bit too much of the tangential here, but in general, I guess, from a men's standpoint, there's an attractiveness that is not as concerned with output, with future potential, other than like a mate selection, I guess, from a biological standpoint. But women are concerned with overall, I imagine, and feel free to correct me, it's like I don't know everything, but overall future outlook and physical, emotional, mental health, in the way that are they capable of nurturing and or bringing a family that I want to be around. Okay. Not only that, but what is their overall balance of health, work, all these different aspects of societal expectations, let alone, I mean, what's going on? What are they personally balanced, right? It's a bit decent. And I'm not personally balanced, so it's not like I'm a great example of anything, but, so back to why that matters as an individual homeowner who is trying to discern, does this individual have my best interest at heart? You're listening to something that is very intuitive. And this is where I think homeowners need to kind of simmer down and understand a little more about just who they're talking to, let alone the information they're talking about. They're not going to remember half the details. If someone's going out like me and rambling about their roof, it's like, I care more about your roof than most, if anyone, ever should. Okay. Like, in my pursuit of chasing the dream, I want my team to give you the best, smoothest flowing experience possible. So I'm going to tell you the things that I think you should understand to reduce the uncertainties, to make things smoother, the barrier to entry, so that you don't have surprises, extra costs, all the things that a lot of dudes don't even understand, even women potentially, that inspect roofs. One of the best inspectors at a company that I had observed was a lady, and she was killing it. She had, and it could have been for a bunch of number of reasons. I think more than anything, though, I saw that she wanted to help. And I think that's the differentiator between a successful roof and or home service company versus those that may have buyer's remorse around wishing they have potentially would have gone with someone who was a little more helpful versus the one who told them everything they wanted to hear in the cadence or the scripted conversation of the things that got them to buy, if that makes sense. So, and this really what I'm trying to get at here is, private equity, big money, private money, even institutional money has gone in and swept through home services, and they're going to sweep through every single piece of every industry in our lifetime and consolidate, at least in the American market, right? So they're going to consolidate the experience to this unfortunate type of buying experience, which is the whole process of selling. Instead of leading through information and education, building a bridge of organic trust building activities by truly looking out for someone and what they need to know, what's in their best interest, and pricing things in accordance to that value, instead of trying to see if you can roll the dice on trying to sell grandma something that she can't even afford, which is, it doesn't stop at grandma. These entities, and some of them here locally in Portland, and I think a lot of other places around the country, are quietly bought out by this machine, and then instituted is the kind of the evil energy against, and we've seen this because we've had reps come from some of these companies. We've actually gone through a few. And I say gone through because it was not a cultural match, because they brought over the bad habits that I'm talking about here that I did not like in terms of how they taught their individuals to speak to their homeowners. And I was like, no, it is like nails on chalkboard. It makes you gag. It hurts to be around. You want to get away from it, right? So ultimately, this is a long-winded explanation of what I truly believe needs to be at the core of every homeowner, every property owner's best interest around understanding your own project details, because you have a true inspector who is trying to give you the best information about your specific project, because in a lot of cases, no two projects are ever the same. Granted, it may be different in lawn care. I can't speak to that. It may be different in windows and siding. I can't even speak to that. I only understand everything from the fascia up. Don't touch the soffit. Although I understand the bones of everything that goes on there. It's just, I like fascia board and up, gutters and roofs, okay? I like to stick to what I know. It's allowed us to distill information in a really pure, raw form that allows us to have these kind of conversations where it simplifies the vibe, because we're not trying to overcomplicate things. A roof is meant to be boring. You don't want your roof to be exciting. You want it to be doing what it's supposed to do so you can live your life and continue to grow, continue to flow. And so property owners out there simply need to feel out their inspectors, or whoever they're calling the company to service them, their representatives, feel out the vibe of what they're trying to tell you. And hopefully it doesn't feel forced. And that's where I'm trying to get at. You understand the difference between someone who doesn't have an agenda versus someone who is trying to get you to make a decision same day, right? And I don't think enough property owners understand this, and you don't see it nearly as much on the commercial side, because commercial people don't make that kind of decision, right? the life cycle on a commercial property, because these are buy and hold assets, it sometimes and very often has multiple parties involved, multiple decision makers, multiple different characteristics involved, different entities that are given information to provide the proper solution prescribed to the problem itself. And whereas a homeowner, it's just them or them and their spouse and or significant other. So at that point, there are less parties involved, still equally important decision making involved, but the bridge of trust is distilled on the basis for the information presented at the time of the inspection. So this is way too long of a winded conversation. The guy that I'd interviewed had told me, first off, he shouldn't have said this. He's like, yeah, I took my CCP test yesterday, which is the Oregon Contractor's test that tells you if you're going to be able to be a contractor or not. It's a stupid easy test. It's open book. It's bilingual. Anyone can take it. And anyone could be a contractor pretty much overnight. I will say, though, at least that we have this test, because if you can't understand the information in the book and apply it to an answer question situation, then if you can't even do that, then you don't necessarily deserve to be a contractor. I'm all for licensing in states that need it to be enforced, because it reduces the likelihood that a bad actor is going to come in there and simply just sweep through things. So a little tangential of a story here. We'll talk about it in a different video, but 2-ish years ago, we were getting neighbors sending us cards of a fake flow roofing in Portland. And it was on Reddit. There was a news article about it. They came to the old shop. They interviewed me, and I was just like, this cannot be. Like, dude was literally calling himself Flow Roofing and Chimney, using our CCB number, our address, and then his email on the business cards that was drawing it. And he was going out door knocking. And that's one of the reasons why I flipping hate door knockers with a flaming passion now, because he was stepping on the thing that I'd built and worked on every flipping day for you. And so I was going to try to find him, but we'll talk about it later. The dude has since dissipated. What was very odd about that story was we had this person who claimed to be a father figure, and he provided all this different email thread chain about the thing. I sent this all into the news station, and they were like, let's do an interview. This is craziness. Me and Dimitri talked about it a little bit briefly on a call with Roofing Insights, who he had me on a radio station apparently. And he's like, brother, you're on the radio right now. I'm like, cool, let me tell you what's going on. Like, I let it out. And so what was the point of bringing that up? Oh, I can't remember. We went off on a tangent. We were talking about discerning individuals and everything that was going on with. This is the problem with coffee jitters, is that you can lose track, you can get off the rails real quick. Most important thing for property decision makers to understand about their home services is that the individual understands everything about their system and the alternatives with their system, the good, the bad, and the ugly, having done the work of what goes into actually building the solution to their problem. And then also being able to control the experience and the quality of that outcome without just simply handing things off to a third party. And this is probably one of the more important aspects, because this is how you know this type of inspector or salesperson and everything about that company. And there is another company in town, which I can only speak to from the perspective that they got kicked out of Washington, and you can look this up, as Penguin Windows. The CEO was kicked out by the Attorney General of the state of Washington for bad business practices. He hopped over the river down south, is now out in Hillsborough, and has since opened a bunch of offices because of this exact same technique I'm telling you to look out for. High pressure sales. All right? It is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever heard of. And I've talked to some homeowners, and they're like, yeah, I've called a bunch of different companies, and I got a bunch of different type of experiences, and I appreciate you taking the time to explain things to me. This is how we flow, at least. And so they're having these other entities come out, and you get the kind of the vibes are a little off from the beginning, right? They're like, let's do X. I don't even understand what the process might look like. But eventually, they try to say things like, is your wife or your husband going to be present at the time of the inspection? Right there, that question tells you they're going to try to do what's called a close on you, homeowner, because they want everyone to be at the table so they can start selling properly. And they say selling properly because they want to get your buy-in from both the decision makers, because the rehearsed scripting of their process is been refined by the sales professionals of all different industries across anything that you could ever sell. The scripting that distills the result that these organizations are looking for, which is a decision from you that's generally going to be overpriced and for their better interests. And then the commissions of the reps and the profits of that entity are built in, bloating the quote. And so you're like, God damn, honey, this is looking a little expensive. I'm not sure. You're sitting there at the table and you're like, I didn't think a roof cost $40K, $50K. What the fuck? Like, all of our quotes are around like less than 20. And that's where you start to get a lot of the buyer's remorse. You start to get the bad vibes. People really resent roofers and or home service companies that take this model. But I'll tell you right now, the reason why it's prolific is because they've practiced this and hired professionals that know it works because of human behavior and human psychology around buying habits. And what they're trying to do is pin themselves and pin you up against a wall around understanding yourself better than you understand yourself, because they understand how you're going to buy. And so they try to, and it's not to say that this is every inspection across the board. What I'm trying to get at is that it's worth you understanding what goes on with the company that's trying to get you to buy same day because they've got a deal running, or their manager gave them special approval, or limited availability. They're trying to create scarcity because of FOMO. They want you to think that you're not going to get the deal. You're going to waste money and time, when I'll tell you what happens on the back end of that experience. They'll say, cool, Jack, good job. Here's your commission. Here's our profit. Go ahead, sub the job out. Here's the work order. Send it out. Our top crews aren't available. Give it to whoever else we need because we got 10, 20 other roofs to do today, and we don't give a shit what happens. Just drop the money in the checks. Get the shit ordered. It's like, it sucks. And so the interview I had with this individual, I say, well, what company are you coming from? And he told me the name. I didn't even recognize it. But then he told me that this other entity had owned it and that they were some nationwide brand, this and that. And actually, this had happened with that other company I told you we went through some reps with. Another family-owned market leader got bought out. They still market themselves as family-owned. But the reason why these reps left the company was because they were instilling these exact principles I'm telling you about, which is forcing shit down their customer's throat that don't give a fuck about their best interests, let alone the outcome in a lot of cases, and or have any reason to continue what I think is good moral growth is by giving people the true market value of what the service requires, right? And in a family-owned business setting, all I know is what we've done to Flow and how we've grown is by presenting the information and letting people make decisions in the comfort of their own home whenever is best for them. This is how we flow. This is how we grow. The true essence of what flow roofing is and where the name comes from is being literal around how air literally needs to flow through an attic space. But in choosing the name, my buy-in to this journey has been, what does flow mean to me? And how do I want my customers to experience the roofing process? Which, funny enough, back to Dmitry Lipinski and Roofing Insights, the roofing process conference that he used to own is where I learned a lot of the good habits of how I wanted my clients to have an experience. And then his network of high caliber roofers across the country helped expose me what I thought the success needed to look like. And the common denominator for who or the model companies that I wanted to be like in trying to duplicate what success was self-performing the work. And so now here today at Flow, we have our own sheet metal in-house. We do our own membranes in-house. I went and bought $20,000 worth of generators and welders and hand equipment to be able to produce flat roof work by giving the guys the tools they needed to do the job right. The shingle guys, techs, inspectors, project managers, the project coordinator, the admin team. We're not done yet. I think this year we might have potentially 50 people on payroll, which is not to say that's big or anything, but it's a lot bigger than where I come from, right? So it used to be a one-man band show. In order to start, I had to do something. So I'm telling this guy, I can't remember his name. I have his resume still. It might be Jack or something. Even it's funny I use that name, but his resume, I didn't look at it. I was kind of just like holding it respectfully, and I wanted him to hear the vibe of what the conversation was. Who is this individual in front of me? Would I want them sitting in front of my homeowners? Would I want them sitting down in some stranger's house? Am I comfortable with them being a good person? Yes, they checked the box. They were clean. They were respectful. They were being honest with me, which I appreciate, and too honest, because why would I hire someone who's literally just going to spin off a roofing company by taking information from our company? It just doesn't make sense, which that fired me up a little bit, and I tried to hold it back during the interview, but I turned to my sister when he left, and I was like, hey, sister, let's screen for people moving forward who don't have licenses, right? And so we have a profile of exactly who I like, and a lot of the guys on the team and the women too, they're family people, right? If you want your homeowners, who are generally family people, to have a good family experience, you put other family people that have children that need to be fed and nurtured. You put those individuals in front of those homeowners, and they're going to nurture the homeowner like their family, because at least here at Flow, what we do is take care of each other. When we flow together, we grow together. There's been a lot of conversations I've had with every single individual about the problems they've had in their lives, where they've had struggles, where they're coming from, where they want to go, what are the dreams, what are their hopes, and the way that we will grow is the way we need to flow. It's quite an amazing journey in that way. So for all of you homeowners, decision makers, even on the commercial side, who are the individuals you're speaking to? Find out, okay? If they're trying to give you a same day special or trying to give you some sort of deal or trying to get you to sit down and let me present to you something at the end of the damn inspection, I can't speak to what that looks like. I know that when we leave the inspection, people look at us in the eye, they say, thank you for your time and the information. And then we leave, I set expectations around next steps. And at that point, the ball is in their court. We're not expecting them to make a decision. And generally half the people don't, right? We're not the cheapest company anymore. We have a team to take care of. We have insurance to abide by. We have the trucks to maintain, the fleet, because there's an increase in demand, because people respect the fact that we're trying to have standards in a traditionally lawless industry. And definitely a hyper-saturated one as well. So where the commoditization of roofing comes from is the fact that there are thousands of roofers across these metro markets. And in the way that the labor itself is a commodity. I don't know why I'm holding my hands like this, but I was going to try to create a graph or something. But the commoditization of a roofing entity or any company is the fact that labor is a consistent, which I tell people too, like, hey, look, there's only going to be X amount of this, X amount of that, and there's only so much material we can install, which means your price is going to be consistent on this side. Where things can change and fluctuate, and your price is generally going to be warranty implication driven, and then shingle quality, which is why your warranty implications generally change. We have separate videos that talk about warranty details. I highly suggest that buyers look into that because there's not always good transparency around what warranties truly mean. Workmanship is the best that you need to focus on, but the best warranty specifically is the warranty you never need. So by trusting the company is going to do their due diligence in being the best at the product they're trying to install for your problem, then you can decide who's best for you. It's not to say that even those companies are worth doing business with, but in my mind, if I was a homeowner, if I'm talking to my best friend's dad or my other the alumni at Oregon State, I see a beaver logo and I say, okay, I'm gonna give you the sauce because, and it's kind of the vibe of this kind of conversation because I'm really trying to help so that they can see through the bullshit. And I'm not like rambling like this in front of them, but sometimes I do. It's really more about making sure that they have the right information so they can make better decisions at a time that works best for them. They have, in every different property owner, because we deal with property owners generally, boards, obviously decision makers of all sorts of shapes and sizes, information distilled for their problem is going to be the thing that gives them the power to see clearly the path of least resistance for the solution that they're looking for. And experience plays into that with the right company that's right for your problem. I would argue today that Flow is not the right company for every individual who wants a gutter cleaning, because we're not able to go out anymore and offer $100 gutter cleanings. When I was doing gutters wearing the fucking belt, I would do your gutters for 50 fucking bucks. I would climb a 3-story. I would do a full hip system up on a 10-12, rope off that shit and figure it out and say, thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Like, we appreciate the opportunity, right? When I started, let me just tell you, the first vehicle that Flo bought in the fleet, when I started doing gutters, this was right before the pandemic in 2017, it was the cheapest truck I could find, which this is the reason why now I've invested into a fleet of low-mile vehicles because of the things that you learn when you buy used vehicles over time. And this is where I really tried to listen to Martin Pettigrew, the previous owner of Monarch Roofing on the East Coast, one of the top roofing companies in the country. He had talked about, and many other companies have talked about the same thing. It's like, I don't want to deal with the headaches that come with a used vehicle. Anyway, I bought that used vehicle. I've got the story, School of Hard Knocks, right? So I called my dad up. I'm on the phone. I drove this vehicle on the test drive for 45 minutes. The guy who was selling the vehicle was probably like, this dude just steal my truck. Like, it was out in Beaverton, and it was an '05 Colorado, like extra cab with like the swinging like doors, and it had a nice rack on it. That was my primarily reason why I bought it. And in the pictures in the ad, it might have been like Facebook Marketplace or something. It was shit paint. I didn't care. It was low enough miles that I knew, at least this is the trick, this is the thing. The guy had advertised X amount of miles, and this is where I started to determine, do I trust other people? Yes, because I ended up believing him. And because of that belief in this stranger, who is an awesome Hawaiian dude, actually, and I'd wished I was as into surfing as I am today when I talked to him, because I think it would have been a great way to connect. But this dude was in the concrete business, and his boss had given him the truck and passed it down. Anyway, when he's presenting the truck to me, unbeknownst, I don't think I saw it in the ad, but I knew that at the miles, the cluster didn't work at all. It was black, didn't know how much gas it was in there, couldn't tell how fast I was going. And I was like, damn, dude, like, this is a $1,500 truck, but it's got exactly what I need to get going here, right? So And I'll tell you the rest of that story eventually. But anyway, that truck and that belief and that individual and me believing that he was telling me the truth is a lot of where everything about how flow roofing came to be. And so these stories have built up on themselves over the years, and that was just the beginning. There was another tail end story to that had me drive that truck out to Boise to go get a piece of equipment that eventually would completely change the trajectory of that next 5 years. Completely different story. And that was the same principle, the belief that this guy is telling the truth, and that you have to take the risk, and that risk of being wrong and that barrier of fear is completely natural. But I'll tell you, when you have the feeling, because you're trying to listen to your intuition around what is this individual trying to tell me, like when the dude came in for the interview, he was, I asked him, what's your track record? Okay, like, first off, he told me he sells roof. And I'm like, okay, red flag. We don't sell roofs here at Flow. Out of thousands of projects, we've never sold a single fucking roof. And he's kind of looking at me confused. And I'm like, yeah, dude, but I'm not going to explain to you why that means anything. And because I had heard that he had that CCB. And I'm like, oh, well, too hyper competitive and everything. So I'm like, anyway, keep going on. He said he had sold 30 or 40 roofs, right? And I'm like, well, you know exactly what you've done if you've got a good company that understands that the numbers matter and that they're investing in you. But he was leaving the company and looking for an alternative solution. He was coming to us because he thought we were trying to do things right. And that was more of a compliment than anything, because we are trying to do things the hard way, which is to do things in-house and take accountability for the training, the good, the bad, and the ugly of everything that involves roofing, right? And I respected that about him. But ultimately, he comes from that highly scripted, and he was a car salesman beforehand, which I hate, right? Who likes a car salesman? I'm sorry. Like, I love Andy Elliott, and what Andy Elliott does exudes confidence, right? Can't deny the dude's producing results. But what I believe makes for good sales, right, in the way that people buy from Flow, it's not that they've been sold. They're just buying. There's a distinct difference in how we produce these results, which are still developing. We have by no means met the goals that we're shooting for. The way that we'd like people to buy is with confidence. They choose who they want to work with, which is the natural buying strategy that I do when, like, I'm feeling like I want a chocolate milk or something. Like, I go out and buy based on how and this is, I can't say that I'm super materialistic. It's like I buy based on what I want. It's not to say that I will always go for the sweets because I want something sweet at the time. That's a little more self-discipline. That's a different topic. But the idea is that I follow the intuition of what I want because I believe it is what is best for me in the moment. And that's where I remember my mom, because she goes and says, be present, be in the moment, be here now, right? And this is the mantra of our childhood. Me and my sister is like her saying these things that at the time we were like rolling our eyes as kids. We're like, wow, man, you're like a parrot. No, it's all love when she's trying to get us, because she understands too, and she had us late in life. So she was 38 when I was 38, 39 when I was born. She had 2 kids prior, but like she understood the process of what we were about to go through multiple times now with my two half brothers. And with that, I was too young and dumb at the time to understand, like, she actually knows the hell she's talking about. And she's not super educated. And I didn't know this too about her, and I had to have a conversation eventually, but she had experience with a bunch of different religions and had landed on Christianity because of her belief, again, that the community involved was what was right for her, which was beautiful, because she was willing to listen to what was important to her and make that choice, which is amazing. And I've been trying to practice a lot of what she's taught us, and she's getting a little old now, little old lady. Love you, Mom. And at that point, I'm trying to transfer a lot of those lessons through what we just spoke about to help clients navigate in a messier and messier world. And we can't even start talking about AI in the way that is muddying up the waters, but making you believe you see what the truth looks like, when really you can't even tell the difference anymore. So this is the reason why I'm trying to invest in, having a hard location for clients to build and a team to assemble with. Part of the reason, the motivation behind getting the shop too, one, obviously a once in a lifetime door opened up, which was a result of being aware that this would potentially be a move that we want to consider in the future. But the bigger personal reason why we moved into the shop that not a lot of people know about, I've already spoke a little bit about it, is that dude that was stepping on my toes with the fake flow cards, who was stealing deposits from neighbors under my damn name, was literally the reason why I needed to plant the flag. And in the middle of the city, I was like, this is it. We're going to do this. Because it was so, the feelings I was feeling about the raw anger of how he was treating the community under the work that I'd put in and the things that I had to go through, where we're trying to go, and all that built into it, it made the most sense. And I was like, for better or worse, whether we can afford it or not, we're going to go in and plant our flag in the community so people know who's real. And part of what the decision actually was coming from Eric Reno. Eric Reno is one of the best roofers in the country as well, owns Paramount Roofing. I can't remember what state he's in. And he had talked about the McDonald'sification of roofing and the importance of having a location within the community that allows people to come in, ask any question, and have a team be able to help those clients, and not be the sales organization, paper contractor who pushes you into a solution you're not even ready for or can't afford, and then just subs it out. And everyone knows these companies. You should know, the point of this video is how to discern between the real and the fake. And I think it's in the best interest for your budget, for your family, for your building. And you want to understand what goes into the assembly and the differences of what makes a great roof versus an average or risky roof. Again, you want an amazingly beautiful, boring roof. Period. You don't want that thing to be exciting. You don't want to have to wake up in the middle of the night being like, oh, shocker, my roof is leaking, right? Oh, God. So this is how we flow. This is how we grow. And I thought I'd be willing. I wanted to share that a little bit because that rep came in yesterday. It had me thinking. And that wasn't the first time someone came in and had plans to start their own company. And I halfway expected it, because when my journey, having gone from gutters into roofing as a prevailing wage sub, and my was listening to Dimitri's videos and everyone that's in there, the other guys he's interviewing, way more time on the roofs than me, were saying, yeah, I know it's going to happen. They're going to get people that come in, lie, steal, and cheat from you. And I'm like, all right, I have to accept that this is going to be a part of the journey. And that was part of the experience. And so those reps that had come from these other companies that are private equity backed had already had companies established, and we got burned. We understood, okay, cool, we're going to change our process for how we onboard folks. We're going to be a little more reserved. We're going to hire slow. And at that point, we've been able to find a very quality team, because the people that I'm putting in front of my clients have a different level of care that aligns with what I believe is best for my client versus treating people like a number on a spreadsheet or trying to make ends meet and or profit for an entity that's not even local, that doesn't even understand the market, doesn't understand the community. I used to have a flipping food truck off of 99, okay? Like I lit up 4 days after George Floyd got murdered. It was literally there's catalyzing events in this journey that have built up to this conversation that we're having right now, where I'm trying to still even unravel the meaning behind everything, because I've been trying to have that level of presence in the way that I believe I care about the moment enough. It comes from a place of self-love, which is definitely a little too gooey for this video. So in an effort to try to love myself and in an extent love my family and those people that are all around me because we're products of our environment, flow comes from a place of love, which is beautiful. And I'm okay with that. And especially in a world where things are so black and white, like I like to color outside the lines. I like to paint in general, right? And we'll speak a little bit about what's going on back here in a later video, but I appreciate any time and attention that you may be willing to give on something like this, because it's kind of a boring topic. I think it's important, but it's a lot of time. We're going on a flipping hour here where there's enough of a concern that I think it's worth sharing this information, because no one needs to be making rush decisions in a world that's moving faster and faster. That's where you're going to trip and fall, right? We don't want to have to learn that we have to get up every damn time we trip. Let's just not trip at all, right? And try to flow smoothly. And life will happen for you, not to you, because you're being present enough to see potential obstacles and opportunities that allow you to make decisions in the best interest of your future, your family, and yourself. So I think that's a good place to end. And I have a massive RFP due here later today for a property that I am putting a lot of energy into, because again, I care about the result. I'll care more about the reputation of the parties involved, because I want to make them look good. And it's a beautiful once-in-a-lifetime property. So again, I live for the opportunities of being able to help on one-off projects, because I go into a place where everything matters. And that's at least how I walk through life, is I try not to take anything for granted, including the people that I'll be putting on a project, and try to invest in everything and everyone equally. And it's hard because you're spread thin, you're trying to run a business, you're trying to be balanced. I don't know balance, right? I get up and I go work out and I go to sleep. I can continue to do that year and year. It's like, how does flow any company, and I'm trying to understand this, and I'm starting to understand more and more, is like what really success or any definition of success looks like. First off, what success looks like is only meaningful if it means something to you, right? You don't care what success looks like to someone else. It should only have meaning to you. At least that's the way I believe it. So how I think success looks like is, I know the people around me are taken care of. I know my clients are having a smooth flowing experience. They're happy. And we have the opportunity to pursue a future here in the next 24 to 36 months that will change the horizon and the outlook of flow for the rest of time. And in my investment towards trying to pursue that goal, everything else, every little damn detail builds up into a bigger picture that I want everyone I interact with. And this is the heartbreaker about single family residential, and the fact that not everyone is going to want to work with you. Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone is going to think that you're the right fit for them, no matter how much truth you drop on their doorstep. People are going to go with people, and a lot to do with it is just straight up pricing. And that's not to say that we're overpriced. I'll tell you right now, I have quotes from competitors literally right here, sitting in front of me, and I'm looking at the damn thing because a buddy at Oregon State had sent me this competing quote. I'm not going to name names or anything. I can't even show you the logo. but it is a 25% bloated increase. And I know the square that they're charging on this. I know what they're charging. I'd say that it's a clean proposal, right? It kind of is just, you'd expect this from a company of this size. But I look at the price and I go, oh shit. Right? And so Bobby was in the boat with me at Oregon State. He sent this. Thank you, Bobby. And I just like to kind of check in to see where we're landing. And it looked a little heavy. And I'm like, okay, where would we land in that stack? We wouldn't be there, and I told him, well, go get another quote, right? See where they land. $5,000 cheaper. And I go, okay, that's probably realistic for where things need to be. And in that constant feedback loop of improvement, of course I'm going to save Bobby some money. I'm going to take that second quote. I'm going to give you drop down a percentage on that, because in the Pac-12 alumni network, we flow, we grow, right? And this is the way. So, completely off topic. So many tangential topics. It's okay. If you're still listening, kudos, congrats. We'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.